But like the kids, man, the kids were awesome. They were always in a good mood. They were always awesome. And then one day, my favorite one, Susie, gets on the bus and she is kicking, she is screaming, she is crying, she is throwing punches. And I knew it was my job to chill her out, so I like sat her down and I looked her in the eye because the other one pointed that way. This lady, she's laughing, but she's not appreciating it. And I said, Susie, what's wrong? Where's that Sunny Down syndrome disposition? She said, through tears, she goes, my boyfriend broke up with me. I didn't know what to say. I was 24, 19 years old, whatever makes the story work. I just caught myself in a lie. I'm so embarrassed right now. I didn't know what to say, but fortunately JJ did. JJ swooped right in, put his arm around her and said, Susie, any guy that's gonna break up with you would have to be retarded. He was like the Don Juan of Down syndrome. I had to take my hat off to him. So here's the story about the officer. I'm driving them one day and I'm speeding because I want to get to the bar on time. The cop pulls over the bus and he walks up and he goes, any reason you're going so fast? I was like, because I didn't want them to be tardy. That's it for the short bus. This lady's gonna walk out on me. So I found myself fired, but that's where I recognized the cop from. And he shines the light in on Joe and he goes, were you pulling off that burrito? Were you flipping me off? And I was like, he is Mexican with one arm. That's way too much multitasking. What, you want to hand him a shovel he can lean on too? It was like, step out of the car, and I was like, oh my God. And that's when I just like turned into Ernie Becker from LA Law. I just started thinking of all the lawyery shit I could say to this guy. And he's like, walk a straight line from here to there. And at the time, I'm 80 pounds heavier. And so I do this and I go, I'm not gonna walk your straight line. And he goes, huh, why is that? And I was like, because I don't think it's in my best interest right now. He said, well, then we're taking you in on suspicion of driving under the influence. And I said, suspicion is better than guilt. So he handcuffed me and threw me in the back of the car. Now at this point, I'm trying to communicate through telepathy to Joe, the one-armed Mexican, to not get out of the car. Don't get out of the car, don't get out of the car. Pretty soon he gets out of the car. What does he do? He tries to touch his nose with his nub. So now we're both in the back seat of the car. I'm like, cool. He hops in the car. We're sitting there and I'm like, oh my God. And he looks at me and he goes, are they searching the car? Yeah, they are. And he goes, they're gonna find some pot in there. I got it for you. Pretty soon the cop like shows up through the grate and he's got this like a jewelry box like he was gonna propose with pot in it, which would have been a great proposal at the time. And like he's sitting there and he goes, who does this belong to? And I was like, it's not my car. And Joe goes, it's not my car either. What? Just like, oh my God, and he goes, we're gonna dust this for fingerprints if you don't tell us who it belongs to. And I said, well, I touched it, but that don't make it mine. He didn't like that answer. Long story short, and I know it's way too late for that. We show up at the Randall County Jail, very classy establishment. And he looks at me and he goes, Joe, you're going in there. Smartass, you're going in there. It's like, what the fuck happens in there? Is that where you beat me because heavy is the new black? That's best response I've gotten on that. And I was like, I want my phone call. And he was like, you can have your phone call. I was like, sweet. But the only number I could remember was my dear, sweet, senile grandfather with Parkinson's. And so I called him to get out of jail, and this is verbatim how the conversation went. Because you gotta ease into that conversation when you're calling somebody. And I was like, hey Grandpa, how are you doing? And he goes, well, today was pretty good. I woke up this morning, got on the lawnmower, mowed the lawn for a little bit. Then I felt a little bit peaked, so I went inside and made myself a piece of meatloaf sandwich with a little bit of relish, and it was pretty good. And then I decided, man, it's just about time for Wheel of Fortune to come on. Wheel of Fortune, Vanna White gets awful tired of turning those letters. I gotta imagine, because she's been doing it for 100 years. Then I decided it was time to take a nap, so I put on my CPAP mask, and my CPAP mask had a little hole in it. I thought, what would MacGyver do in this situation? Because MacGyver comes on right after Wheel of Fortune. So I got some duct tape, and I pulled the tube out of the bubble tape that Mr. Fish lives in. Mr. Fish doesn't mind at all. I protect him from crab cakes. Crab cakes gets a little bit cantankerous at times, and I don't know what to do with him. Grandpa, I have 15 minutes, and I have 30 seconds. That guy has an old grandfather at home, because he understood every word of it.